Today, we're going to talk about wedding aesthetic. Choose wisely or regret it forever. Well, ladies and gents, welcome back to the South Asian Wedding Guru. My name's Amy Rigetti, as always, your host. And today we are going to talk about your photos, your legacy. You know, it's one thing when we talk about aesthetics. What is an aesthetic? Well, an aesthetic is something that makes you feel a certain way, something that looks a certain way, something that reads a certain way, and something that without words makes you feel and think a certain way. This is what I like to explain as aesthetic. And in the world of weddings today, aesthetic is being thrown around like icing on the wedding cake because it's one of those things that is really going to set the tone for your overall wedding. And a lot of people use it to define what it is that they want to project out there for people to say, this is us, this is who we are, this is the feel, whether it's romantic or exciting or whether you want somebody to come back and look at your wedding and think their wedding was like crazy over the top with, excitement, or their wedding was just so soft and romantic and mellow. These are all aesthetics, and this all comes in through colors and feels and the way that the flowers are opened and the way that the colors are used to mesh and blend together. This is all aesthetic, but it doesn't just stop with your wedding day decor. It also moves into photos and video because this is what generations are going to see and feel for years to come. And so it's very important that we have this conversation so that you guys put a little bit more thought into this before you look back 10 years on your wedding and regret what it is that you did. There are so many things flying out there, from film to filters to digital versus film to film and digital together, which create this hybrid. And Srinu and I, as we've been in the market for so long and we adapt, we just did our rebrand with our logo this year. And we are also about to launch a new website, which we are adapting a little bit to the change, but also understanding that we have clients that aren't looking for that kind of change, that they want to stay classic. And so we're trying to meet in the middle in order to do that. But in our new website, it is kind of something that as we have grown as individuals and people and matured a little ourselves, our aesthetic is also changing. And we're excited to launch that because it's something that we've been so busy immersed in ourselves and our weddings and our current happenings that we've kind of taken a back seat to doing that because we just haven't had time. But this year we have made it a priority and we're so excited to be able to launch that very, very soon. But this all has an impact, like I said, on what it is that you're going to see as your end product. And I want to help you guys not only understand that, but be able to decide what it is that you'd like to see at the end of the day without any confusion, but complete clarity. So let's start with this wedding aesthetic 101. With a lot of the ways that you're seeing different websites and with Instagram, you're seeing a lot of different photographers and video films that are out there and they're like projecting different things, whether it's moody or it's dark and moody or light and airy, or you're seeing this film aesthetic, but you're not really seeing the film aesthetic because you're seeing the digital byproduct of the film that was developed and digitized. And so how much of that is filter? Well, you just need to get down it. You need to really comb through these sites. And you really need to get on Zoom calls. If you have a specific aesthetic that you're looking for, you need to walk through that with your photographer or cinema team and let them explain to you what it is that they bring or offer. If you're looking for something that has more of a nostalgic feel to it, but do remember that once you place that on your images or within your film and it's shot like that, it is a done deal. You cannot go back. You cannot complain later. We cannot change anything. You cannot manipulate anything. You cannot bring anything back. It's like a photographer who overexposes the film for the sky or whatever, and you just blow out the whites in your colors. Once you lose the details of your whites in an overexposed product, it's done. It's over. It's not coming back. There's nothing I got for you folks. So it's very important that you understand and you know what these are going into, if you want that light and airy type of situation, what it is that's being lost. And if your photographers are retaining those details, it's an important conversation to have and making sure that they know what it is that's important to you, what is it that you're looking for in the images. There's plenty of difference between a blurry image and a motion blur image. And a blurry image was an accidental out of focus taken picture, whereas a blurry image is the drag of a shutter and it requires talent in order to execute that properly. So in order to know the difference between the two, you're going to have to do a little bit of research, and that research is going to give you a product that you are going to be over the moon happy with in the end. Srinu and I have sat here as we're updating our new website that hopefully will launch this week. And we've said, okay, what is it that we're going to bend to the trends and what is it that we're not going to bend to the trends? And if any of you have been on the internet long enough, you've probably seen things that have been spot retouched. And this was one of the trends that we never, ever, ever got into, but it was where you black and white an image and then you bring back like the flowers or, you black and white an image and they just bring back the eyes and people are like, whoa, that's so cool. Serena and I had never jumped in that trend because we knew it was not going to age very well. And there's been other trends too that we've not necessarily jumped into that are just traditional trends that we know we've moved away from them and we don't want to encourage that anymore. So we're just like, okay, let's find a better way to do the same thing, but more tastefully. I'm one of those people that I have seen videographers take a bride's shoes because they're like diamond studded and they flip them upside down and then they drop the bride and groom's rings on there. And as a non-Indian married into the Indian culture, it's like, you know better than to put some gold on the bottom of somebody's shoes. You just, we just, it's a no-no. If you don't know, then you don't know, but it's a no. And so these are things that cultural appropriation is so important to know when you're in these events. And that is just one of the things that Srinu and I, we don't make it known to them because we feel like it's sometimes not our place. Depending on how comfortable I am with the other part of that shoot team, I'll tell them, hey, just a heads up. And they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. We didn't know. Or even the fact that if it's a Hindu wedding and, you have a team there and they're not Indian, they haven't really had a lot of experience. I try to get on the front of that in the beginning because they don't know, like, don't put your shoes on the mandap. Make sure you take your shoes off if you have to go up there. We also encourage that people don't go up there. The only time we will get on a mandap is if it gets crazy up there and we get boxed out, then one of us will stay in a safe place and the other one jumps up to be able to get those wide shots of those mandap pictures because we know we're not going to get it any other way. But we really do like to try to respect that whole feel up there and get our pictures right up in there without being in there based on the equipment that we're shooting with. But that is something that we're just like, we sit back sometimes and we're like, too bad they didn't know. And we often feel bad because we're like, we thought they knew. Who would hire someone who doesn't have experience with these events? But it happens more often than I care to admit. Let's have a quick conversation about film versus digital. Miss Amy Rigetti over here has a totally different perspective on film versus digital because we started shooting weddings with film. We didn't start digital, as a lot of people in the industry now started digitally and don't have much experience in the dark room with film. We do, and we pride ourselves on that, but we moved away from film because we felt we could do a lot more creative stuff by using our digital cameras because one, we just had memory cards and we didn't have to worry about how much film. Two, we didn't have to change the film out based on the lighting situation that we were in. And three, we didn't have to worry about running out of film at any point during the events or being able to, how long is it going to be before we get a client some pictures? Back in the day, we used to want to get those pictures to them right, like a few of their favorite pictures right in the beginning because they were so excited about it. So that also was like digital rocks in this way. Well, film is coming back and Srinu and I never got rid of our film cameras. So along with film coming back, the Rigettis are coming back with film as well as an option for our girls who are like, I just want it. Like, I don't know why I want it. I just want it. I feel like it's a very nostalgic thing. And so as we launch our new website, we will be kicking off the opportunity to include film with all of our offerings if our brides feel that is something that they want. But as we incorporate that, we also feel that we need to educate them on the fact that film really isn't for receptions anymore. We just feel with the lighting conditions and situations and the opportunities of missed things, we personally do not feel like it has a place. However, anything that is done with natural light, whether it be your ceremony, outdoor pictures, family pictures, and so forth, we feel it very much has a place. And because you have two shooters in the Rigettis, one of us can always stay digitized while the other one switches over to film, allowing us to give you a very hybrid experience when you hire the Rigettis to shoot your wedding. So if you have thoughts and this is something that you wanted, be sure to jump on a Zoom with us and ask these questions and let us walk through it with you because I would love to. We are going to be offering some pretty cool stuff as deliverables with our film offerings as well, so that it's not just something that's digitized, because after all, you want it filmed because the printing uniqueness of it and the aesthetic that it brings. So just know that these are things you're not going to want your whole entire wedding shot in film. It's just something that, I personally feel is not, why should we do that to ourselves when we now have these digital cameras that do so much better, especially in low light situations that allow us to change things in camera, whereas we don't have to change it by changing film. So just think about these things. And as you bring in someone who's new to this and really doesn't understand the process, you are taking a risk, especially if you've got one shooter and you want them to shoot some film. You want to really think about that as you move into that situation and ask if it's really worth the gain and the potential loss if you don't have somebody who's really trained in shooting film and also keeping digital in hand at the same time. A constant question that I ask clients when we get on the phone is, what did you imagine you would want to see in your wedding images once they were delivered? Like, is there something that you want to feel? Is there something that you want to have invoked when you look at those pictures? There's something you want to see more of and less of, so that we can walk through those things. That's one of the things that will allow me to get to know if they're in the right line with us as photographers. I do have clients that I jump on the call and all they want to do is focus on the photo shoot. And they will tell me, we're not really worried about like the family and the guests and all that stuff. We really want to focus on ourselves. This is about us. And they're like, but we do want to just see overall like the decor and the details, as well as just some of the guests mingling and dancing. But we really want to keep it focused on our immediate family. And I get that and I understand that and I can appreciate that. And then I have my families where they're like, Amy, this wedding is not just about us. We want to make sure we have good pictures with our friends from college. We want to make sure all of my girlfriends from elementary school are going to be there. And we don't get to see each other very often. We want to see that. My mom has parents, other parents that she's invited that I'm not really close to, but I definitely want to make sure that my mom has those pictures. Family formals are extremely important, but I don't want to spend a lot of time doing them. All these girls, I'm like, I get you. I understand you. I could not be more with you. And then I have clients who are like, Amy, we have like this 30-person bridal party and we want to spend like 2 hours doing pictures all around DC. And then I'm like, 2 hours, just bridal party pictures all around DC. That's a red flag for me. So I tend to interview my clients as much as they interview me because I want to make sure that they have the right match. And if I'm not the right match, I want to refer them to the photographer who I know personally who is the right match and cut back on some of the work that they have to do in finding the right one and wind up missing and booking the wrong one. So there's a lot of people in the industry that will say that they can or will or love to do something when they actually don't. So those of us who mix and mingle with other people in the industry are very well known in the sense of being able to steer you in the right direction. And I have no problem being able to do so because it's important to me that each bride and groom have the right photographer for their wedding day coverage so that at the end of the day, they get to see exactly what it was they wanted to see and feel in their images when they're finally delivered to them. So in this particular episode of this podcast YouTube situation that I got going on here, people are like, Amy, what do you think is the one most mistake that couples will make when it comes to aesthetic and their wedding photography? Well, I can tell you that couples go into this making the mistake of not really understanding how that particular aesthetic was going to affect their pictures from beginning to end. Because a lot of people that have this certain aesthetic, light and airy, dark and moody and all that stuff, they're only showing pictures from ceremonies and getting ready with natural light. And of course, couples pictures and family pictures outside. You are not seeing indoor weddings with this and indoor receptions with this, where they are posting them openly on their website, because that's not going to be something that it allows the aesthetic to carry through their indoor ceremony and indoor reception. It will go back to the true colors and hues that are in there based on the lighting situation that you are working with. And so a lot of people will refrain from posting those kinds of weddings because they're hoping to sell you on this dark and moody, light and airy, mute it, little effect. So make sure that you're looking through everything. The best word of advice that I can give any client looking to book their wedding photographer is to ask for a full wedding gallery. And if not a full wedding gallery, some photographers are very leery about giving full wedding galleries because the competition will, believe it or not, they will send people in to like get their full wedding galleries and so that the competition can look through it. And so nowadays, between people just not wanting to share that, photographers not wanting to share that, you can at least ask them, can they share a sample album of some of their weddings that they've done? And then they can give that to you. And I tell clients, don't start at the front of the album. That's the exciting, fun stuff. Start at the back of the album and look at the reception and the ending pictures and go in reverse and see if you feel like it's still very cohesive by the time that you get to the beginning of the album. And if it is, then you've got a pretty solid, pretty sound photographer. And as long as you love them personality wise and the way that you think that they're going to be able to take charge when it comes to your wedding, you are in the right place and your gut can settle down because your gut feeling usually never steers you wrong. So here we have the end of this podcast. And the only thing that I can tell all of you guys out there is choose your aesthetic wisely. Nobody wants to have that kind of regret because once that is applied and you walk away from your photographer and that's what you thought you wanted, you're not going to be able to come back a year or 2 years later because they're going to say, well, that's what it was then. Even if they change their style a couple of years later, the pictures are finally saved in that final format and you are stuck with them. So I always tell people, if you have an aesthetic that is trending right now, get your pictures delivered to you the way that they should be delivered to you, all natural, and then go ahead and use those filters to apply to the pictures you want to share so that at least you have the pictures the original natural way that they should be. And you can apply any of those filters that you want to now and still have the originals for later, for, when you decide that that was cringy, that particular aesthetic, or you were like, well, my sari was not really that pale. It was actually a very robust pink. You want to be able to go back and be able to see that. And so when you start putting these filters or color grading on these images and a photographer color grades them in RAW and then they convert them to JPEGs, that's what you're stuck with. And a lot of photographers don't keep their RAW footage. So it's not even like, even if they wanted to, they could go back and change that for you. So just think about these things very carefully because they're important decisions that a lot of people just don't have the information to really be making those decisions without having a little bit of insight as to what goes on in the background. All right, so there you have it. I want to hear, what is your wedding aesthetic? Are you classic, trendy? Are you feeling the moody? Are you feeling the muted? I want to know. Drop these comments in the comment section below because I'm curious as a photographer what it is that compels my girls to see certain things the way they do, what it is that they love about it. If you are considering film, what it is that's driving you. And maybe I want to hear, who do you think the top film photographers in the world are right now? Or who have you booked that you love so much and you want to share? I want to see this in the comments below. Let's get this conversation started.